this is exactly what I want to do. They did not want me to go into the military. My father obviously has served. I loved every single moment of it.
Hi, I'm April DeBoe. Welcome to Vet2Vet, a show where we highlight veterans and how it helped them become great leaders. Being in the National Guard for 8 years provided me the discipline to better navigate our world we live in. It helped me actually become who I am. Now, on to the show. New segment called Vet2Vet, where we're, basically reaching out to veterans who are in the industry, getting some understanding about how their military career, has kind of led them to the career that they're in. So first, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? Where did you serve? What was your rank and things of that nature?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for the invitation to this program. I think it's obviously very, very important to lift and uplift anyone who has served in the military in any capacity and continues to serve in the military. So I think it's a wonderful thing that the company's doing to highlight military members and continue to do so. So I think that's great.
Thank you.
I was born and raised in Kyiv, Ukraine. My family immigrated to the United States in 1987 when I was 12 years old. After graduating from law school here in Maryland, I commissioned in the U.S. Navy's Judge Advocate General Corps and spent the next 7 years in active duty as a military prosecutor and staff judge advocate, kind of in-house counsel version in the military. I also spent about a year at the U.S. Attorney's Office as a special assistant United States attorney. In 2006, after having our first child in Florida and the second child in Virginia, as very common for military families, my family moved back to the Maryland area, and I joined a law firm downtown Baltimore as a civil litigation partner, trying cases in state and federal courts. In 2012, I joined an IT company as a chief operating officer and general counsel, and grew that company with my partners from 2 employees to over 100 over that period of time. As of last month, I am a founder and CEO of Global Operations Group. We are a company of entrepreneurs, investors, and business operators who have started, grown, operated, and exited businesses here in the United States. We're going to be bringing our services to companies who wish to enter the U.S. marketplace from overseas. And our first project is partnering with the American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine. And as you know, Klik Solutions, Klik Ukraine is a big part of that as well. So we're partnering with the American Chamber of Commerce to bring our experiences and experiences of our network to Ukrainian companies who want to enter the U.S. marketplace. For myself, I had, I guess, a slightly unconventional path into the military. My family immigrated to the United States in 1987 from Kyiv, Ukraine, and I don't know if you know anything about the military service requirements in the former USSR or even the countries that are there now, such as Russia, Belarus, Ukraine. Ukraine is where I'm from, related to military service. All males at the age of 18 were required to go into the military, and it wasn't a very pleasant experience for most people. It wasn't a highlight of their careers. It was a requirement, and they did it, and they served, and they did what they needed to do. But it was one of the things that my parents have expressed to me that I was younger. They had very little interest in me doing. They said that they did not want me to go into the military. My father obviously has served. And so my family immigrated from Ukraine to the United States, not because of that, but it was just one element that kind of stuck in my mind as I decided to join the military here in the United States. So I didn't enlist. I commissioned after I graduated from law school. So I didn't have a path towards the military at all. It kind of happened by accident when a guest professor at my law school was an Army JAG officer, and he gave a lecture about all sorts of experiences that he had in the Army and the places that he's traveled and all the work that he's done for the military. And I was just so blown away and so impressed. Something clicked inside, and I went and talked to him, and I said, "This is exactly what I want to do."
Wow.
And so he directed me to the Army JAG Corps, and I, after a little bit of research about the different branches of the military, led myself into the Navy. So I commissioned in the United States Navy as a young ensign in the year 2000. And right after graduating from law school, went to Officer Indoctrination School, went to Naval Justice School in Newport, Rhode Island, spent almost a year between both of those in training. And then my first duty station was in Mayport, Florida, which was
Oh,
Naval Station right outside of Jacksonville. So my wife and I at the time spent about 2.5 years in Mayport. We had our first child in Mayport. We had our second child in Virginia, as common between, for military members, have kids all kind of sprinkled all over the place as
right,
you're moving around from duty station to duty station. So that's how I got in. I ended up spending 6.5, almost 7 years on active duty between 2000 to the end of 2006, early 2007. And then I left the Navy and I joined a law firm here in Baltimore. Then I worked for an IT company, but I think we'll cover some of those details as the conversation progresses.
right,
Uh,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like, you've come from a place where this was something that you was expected of you no matter what. Um, Given that you come to the United States and you went into the military, how did that service in the military and that discipline kind of drive you in your career now and in your life now, and some of the things that you do in your life now?
Yeah, that's a great question because everything we do, I believe, shapes who we are, right? Our experiences shape who we are. So, um, like I said, I wasn't really looking to join the military. I just kind of fell into it through that guest professor and then ended up commissioning and then spending 6.5, 7 years in the Navy. And I loved every single moment of it. I loved every single moment for so many different reasons. And it shaped, it was the first, I would say, real job after school, right? I mean, I've
Right,
had plenty of jobs. I was working since I was 13 years old, but this was the first real job after graduating college, and I went immediately to law school. And then after law school, I joined the Navy. So it was my first professional career. Um, what it taught me is uh, there's very little room for error in the military, I believe, or things that I've witnessed, right?
mhm,
I wasn't on the front lines. I wasn't deployed overseas. I wasn't a full war fighter. I was a staff officer. I was a JAG officer. I was an attorney, and I happened to fall into the prosecution track. So I was a military prosecutor for most of the 6 years. I spent several years at various commands, kind of as in-house counsel. So I worked with warfighters, right? I supported the ship drivers, the pilots, the helicopter pilots, the warfighters that are deployed. I worked with some Navy SEALs at Naval Amphibious Base Little Creek. So what it taught me is that there's very little room for error. And if you say you're going to do something, you better do it because
right,
it's visible and a lot of people depend on it,
yeah,
right? So there's very few people that last in the military, in my experience, that skirt by.
yeah,
You can skirt by, but you can only skirt by to a certain extent,
yeah,
which
so
is very
much.
different in companies that I've obviously worked with a lot of different companies and in the civilian world after the Navy, and even before the Navy, my part-time jobs, it was uh, people can hide, right? People can kind of
Sure.
half-ass their job. They can, they
Do
can
the bare
pretend they're
minimum.
doing something. What's that?
Do the bare minimum.
Yes, they can do the bare minimum. And I found that the Navy, specifically where I worked and the experiences that I had, it was more of a, some people say meritocracy, right? People who deserve it on the merit, people who do a good job, people who are recognized for their job, people who can be relied on as they move up the chain of command. Those are the people that move ahead. So by doing that, by promoting people based on their abilities, by promoting people based on their contributions, you end up with a system, in my experience and what I believe, that works so well that others who enter the system can look up and say, that's what I have to do, right?
Right.
That's how I have to perform. So I think it prepared me for every job that I've had since. I consider myself a problem solver,
Hmm.
right? Military, you don't come to your commanding officer or your senior leadership with a problem and an explanation. You come with a problem and a solution.
Right.
So that's the way that I structured myself in every job that I've done since.
Wow. Wow. It sounds like it lended a lot of value. How about as far as your personal life is concerned? What value do you believe it lended to your personal life?
Well, that's also a great question because being in the military, it's not a solo act, right? If you have family, if you have either your parents or you're married and or you have children or don't have children, but you have people around you that are impacted by your military service. And one of the first things that one of my commanding officers said early on that kind of stuck with me. I was just newly married in 2000, and he said the hardest job in the Navy is the Navy wife. And I mean, I don't know if I paid attention to him when he said it, but over the years, as I had to travel and leave for various not deployments, combat deployments or anything like that, but still had to travel for work and be out of the home. And I've observed a lot of my neighbors,
Hmm.
um, the husbands, the wives who would leave on deployments for 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, a year plus,
Right.
sometimes to combat zones. It takes a toll on the family, which I think many people don't realize and recognize. So it takes a toll on the family. It's hard because they have to live and operate in their life without that person being close to them and that person being in danger. But there's also a lot of positives to that, right? People become independent, people
Yeah.
become resilient. My family traveled, uh, from Newport, Rhode Island to Florida. Like I said, I had my first son in Florida, my second son in Virginia. So they had to change schools, they had to change friends, they had to make new friends. We had to make new friends. My wife and I had to make new friends. And because we traveled and we lived in these different locations and different locales, then we didn't have our parents around, right? So we didn't have the babysitting, we didn't have the support of our parents being close by. Uh,
Right.
so do all those things combined kind of, I think, weigh on the families from positives and negatives. But in my experience, in my observations about people that I have worked with and lived with and next to, it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity and experience to see the world, see the country, meet new people. I'm still friends with a lot of people that I served with, even though I've been out of the Navy since 2007.
Right.
Um, and uh, and I think we're all better for it. I think my wife and my boys are much better for having traveled, seen places, being comfortable in new environments, and certainly they've developed a respect for the military. Every time they
Yeah.
see someone in the uniform, they immediately identify that person as to where they're from, in terms of what branch, sometimes what they do, and they have great respect.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, leading into that, what would you say to the younger generation about enlisting in the military? What advice or what encouragement might you give them?
I highly encourage to anyone, including my own children. Obviously, it's their choice. Military is not mandatory in this country. But I would highly encourage everyone and anyone, regardless of your professional experience or leaning, to go into the military. If you can, if you're able to, if you want to try it. Maybe some people have a particular path that they're taking. Great. Maybe some people are a little bit lost. Well, the military is not just for the lost. The military should be for people of honor, people who want to contribute to the society, people who want to serve, because
Yeah.
it is a certain mindset, I think, that you're required to have when being in the Navy, Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, regardless of what the branch is. So I would highly encourage anyone to either enlist or commission, serve the country. I think the experiences are so diverse. There's a lot of benefits for being in the military, obviously financial benefits as well. Um, and I think it just, I guess, tremendous opportunity for personal development, professional development, family experience, all around. I'm very, very positive. I've tried to convince both of my sons, when one expressed interest of not doing the military, I tried to convince the other one to go to the Naval Academy. They're both right. One's 18 now, one's 19 or almost 18 and almost 19. I don't think they're going to make the decision to go into the military, which actually makes me a little sad.
Yeah.
I wanted them to go. I wanted them to experience this environment and the people
Right.
that they would be surrounded by
Right.
while serving.
Right. Wow. Wow. That's very Very true. I think in my own path, the military definitely um, led me to understand what discipline was all about. I was in the Army, so that's anchor clanker, mud puppy kind of thing. Yeah.
That's
Uh,
great. How many years did you serve?
I served 8 years.
8 years. Okay.
Yeah,
And where did
under
you serve in the Army?
I served in the Army National Guard actually.
Okay.
But I did what's called an AGR tour, which is a full-time National Guard assignment.
Okay.
So I really didn't go overseas or anything, but I served in the 80s too. So I actually was on the cusp of Operation Desert Shield.
Okay.
Not Desert Storm, but Operation Desert Shield.
Sure. The first one.
My battalion was connected to the 82nd Airborne. So we were their signal battalion and supporting them. But yeah, I completely agree. It changes your mindset about what you believe you can do across everything in all aspects of your life. It really kind of elevates your thought process and in understanding your capabilities, I think. So
I agree. Yeah.
yeah,
I think
so
any I think regardless of what your rating or designation is in whatever branch, there's so many different opportunities to develop really any interest that a person may have, or
right.
a particular leaning. If they're particularly good with their hands, or particularly good with computers, or even architecture, right? I mean, there's scientists on active duty. There are nuclear engineers. There's medical staff. There's legal
Right.
staff. There's all, supply chain. There's all sorts of positions and jobs that people can learn and do. And I think many people are not aware of many ways that they can serve, right? There's active duty, obviously, in many different branches and subsets of those branches, but there's also the National Guard,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Which is valuable and important on so many different levels, on local levels as well as
Yeah.
national levels.
Yeah.
Uh, the reserves. A lot of my friends stayed in the reserves, and spent 20 years doing one week in a month and 2 weeks a year. And
Right.
some of them ended up on deployments overseas during those
Yeah.
reserve years, sometimes by design, sometimes by accident, but a couple ended up in war zones and uh,
Wow.
served there. So I think there's just a lot of misconceptions that people just don't know about the military, and I think it's worth getting this type of information, these type of conversations that you and I are having out to uh, as many people as possible,
Right.
so they can
Agree.
know of the positive experiences and the positive images of people serving in the armed forces.
Okay, great. So one last question. Sometimes there's a defining moment in your military career. Can you pick like a day or an event that really kind of stands out in your mind as it relates to the time that you served?
Well, I obviously not 9/11, 2001 was a
Oh,
big day. Um, it happened. That particular day, I with a group of my fellow JAG officers were at a training seminar at the Air Force Academy in Colorado.
mm,
So we were staying at a hotel on the base, and we were going for lectures and training on the Air Force base there. And then waking up in the morning, my wife called me, um, and we just had we just had a little baby a couple months, 2 months before
mm,
our first son, and she called me. She's like, "Are you watching the news?" And I said, "No, I'm getting dressed. We have class in 30 minutes." She said, "No, you better turn on the TV." And I turned on the TV, and I remember sitting there on the bed watching it with her in complete silence, just watching the towers, watching everything that's going on. And the first thought that crossed my mind was, "Oh my God, we're going to war."
hmm
Um, and I didn't know much about geopolitics at that point. I mean, whatever I heard in the news and read the newspapers, but it just struck me at the time that just, oh my God, we are going to war. Something's going to have to be done. Someone's going to have to
Right.
do something. All of us on the base lined up for the Red Cross immediately to give blood. Because it was just an immediate response from almost everyone on the base. We were locked down. We couldn't fly home. Um, but the conversations and the tone that changed in the people on that day, I think had a very profound impact on me personally. Um, Professionally, I think it also highlighted the importance of everyone in all the various aspects of whatever work they do in the military, whether they're staff officers, line officers, front line, back line, doesn't really matter where you are. It all works as a single cohesive unit with a single purposeful goal.
Yeah.
So that mission, I enjoyed and I loved being part of the mission,
Hmm.
being surrounded by like-minded people, moving forward with the same goal in mind of making things better, making things faster, making things safer.
Yeah.
And I just think it shaped everything that I've done since.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Alex, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today about all of this. Did you have any other follow-up comments or questions?
Well, I'll throw it right back at you. Did you have a moment that, in your service that shaped you in some way, either personally or professionally, or had a profound impact?
I think later on, actually, after I got out of the military, I still did a lot of work. I maintained some really good connections with some of the people that I served in the military. Britannia is popping in. So I think my defining moments were when I was actually out of the military, but still kind of working with some of the military families and stuff. I've done some work for Gold Star vets with regards to providing free IT support for Gold Star vets and their families when it was needed.
Tell people what a Gold Star family is for those that may not know.
It's persons who are missing in action, or persons who, they're obviously their mate has been killed in action or something like that. So it's either that person or their family members, whomever, whatever the relationship is there. So,
Right.
So that, those, I think my service in doing that, in helping the special forces groups and their families back home, I think those were my defining moments in my military career. And it was even after I got out of the military. So,
Right. Well, I
yeah,
think it's admirable that you continue to work with military vets and their families. I think that's
thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. And thank you again, Alex, for taking the time to speak with me today. I wish you a great day.
Thank you, April. Thank you for your service.
Thank you as well. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.